Right, so welcome back. It's still Good Morning Anambra on ES TV, and like I said, we are going to meet at the other side, and we are at the other side already this morning. We're here to talk on the implementation of free education for basic schools in Anambra State. Of course, we had that pronouncement from the governor of Anambra State that when he declared free education for pupils and students in basic school in Anambra State. So we are here this morning to talk about it, to see how it's going to work, and then what are people, the players that should be involved to make this a reality in Anambra State. We have a guest already seated with us in the studio this morning. But before then, I still have my colleague, Ajulu Chukwud Kabwe.
Yeah, good morning, dear Anambra. It's always a pleasure to be here. Well, the excitement about the pronouncement of free education in Anambra State, it's so exciting to me. I feel like dyeing this gray hair and then going back to school. But then, the guests we have here in the studio will definitely talk on the importance of all this and many more. Stay back and relax and enjoy.
Of course, I know that as a parent, you are so excited because you want to cut down when it comes to the money you pay as school fees. All right. Our guests this morning are Chris Chikolo Jr., a research fellow, Center for Innovation, Ethics and Development. Glad to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Again.
Okay.
Welcome to a new week.
Right, we still have Oke Onyeka. Oke Onyeka is a state coordinator, Civil Society Action Coalition on Education for All, CSFA, and also the Executive Director, Civil Rights Concern, CRC. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, Anambra, we're happy to be around to discuss this matter. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. But before we go into the implementation of this free education for basic school in Anambra State, let's start with you, Chris. Okay. When the governor made the pronouncement, how did you receive the news?
Well, first of all, I want to thank the governor of the state, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, CFR, for making that taking the bold step and making that pronouncement. When the news was broken to Anambrarians, the greater number of indigenes and residents of this state entered a very happy mood. But actually the problems of our governments are that introducing a program is one thing. Implementing that program is the second thing. Then monitoring the program is also another thing. Because since we came into this third bit of our democracy in 1999, having come out from the military doldrums, the president then, His Excellency Olusegun Obasanjo, introduced this UBE, Universal Basic Education. Then it was UBE in 1999, just about 5 or 4 months when he came in. And the thing began. At the second term of his administration, somewhere around 2004, he found out that the program was just like a table without any leg. So he went back to National Assembly, and the National Assembly reviewed and introduced a new act concerning the establishment, where there was this counterpart agreement and funding system, whereby the state, the local government, and the federal government will now come into a tripartite arrangement for the program to move. And they established offices in all the states of the federation, and started working in liaison with all the state education ministries. But alas, as time went on, we found out that when you go to some places, you see, in some schools, you see where they will write UBEC project, maybe this is 2023. You see there where they will write UBEC project 2016. You start asking questions. Does it mean that they are no longer carrying out those projects as supposed to be? When investigations were made, we now found out that the states were not actually bringing their own counterpart funding to enable the UBEC is release those funds for those projects. So, but let me digress. Let me come back because we are trying to go into a different thing. So, this issue of free education was a very laudable project and program, but I'm looking at it this way. When you go around all the schools, because education is the most important currency every nation must ever compete with. Without education, you and every other person will not be in this studio. That was what brought us here, because we now went to schools and knew how the value of education and acquired knowledge. Looking at it this way, you will notice that before this time, people were retiring from the system. People said that there was free education. Past administrations like that of Mr. Peter Obi, that of Chiwule Obiana and all the rest. Because when he introduced this free education, some people supported the project. Some people in the social media started, putting one or two issues that that free education was in existence before. That why is it that they're trying to use it now to maybe either for campaign program or one thing or the other. But when you look back, you now notice that the problem from those years was because they didn't monitor the exercise very, very well. If you go to some school now, you start hearing something like PTA teacher, this and that, and you ask a question, why was it that the schools, people were retiring and they were not having replacements? They will now tell you that, for instance, if you go to some rural areas, a physics teacher might retire from a school, and that school may not have another physics teacher. The Parents Teachers Association of that school and the school authority will now make an arrangement to bring in teachers who will now be teaching those students physics or chemistry. And by that time, that teacher will now be called PTA teacher. They will tell you that they need to be paying them. They will be charging all these unscrupulous money, hidden levies, in order for them to pay those teachers. People will not be asking, but the government said there was free education. Why was it that now all this money they are charging, which means that that education is no longer free? So where I'm trying to point out was that the government need to look out. This is the time when the educational zones of the state now need to be working. This is the time when all the inspectorate divisions of education ministry need to be working to ensure that those variables are implemented. Because if you just say free education without monitoring it, now I heard from the news day before yesterday, they recruit about 3,000 new teachers. Yes, it is good. But at the end of the day, when a teacher is posted to a place like Ayam or Anambra West, how are you monitoring it to ensure that those teachers posted in those areas do not go back to ASUBEB or any other educational agency to work for relocation back to where he wants to stay? Because everybody these days, they want to stay in urban area. I remember I attended public primary school. I also attended mission or co-educational secondary school. So those days were the days when teachers lobbied to go to rural areas where they will see farmlands, where they will see cheap accommodations to now teach. But these days, people want to be in the city, and that's one of the problems we're having concerning our education. Okay. Sometime I went to Ayamelum, local government, precisely in a community called Umumbo. I saw a teacher there. The next thing she told me was that she was posted to this place, that she didn't like the place, that she wanted to come out from there. Ask her some certain questions. Did you actually have passion for this job that you are into? She said yes. And I told her, if you are passionate about the job, why not stay here, at least for some time, so the natural time where your transfer will come up. So let me end here so that my colleague will.
Okay, let's come to you. If I understand what you're saying that the government should actually work on those things that could mar the successful implementation of this free education in Anambra State. Talking about when we have lack of teachers, or when you post a teacher to a school, the teacher will tell you that he doesn't like the area, so he or she is seeking for relocation, maybe back to the urban city. And then the question is, how then should the government, come into this and see that this particular declaration by the governor of Anambra State, implementation of this free education, that is done so well, and then eliminate some of these minor challenges?
Okay, thank you very much for bringing up that, the first discussion. That I'm really glad she brought up some of the key challenges in the sector of education. If you look at our constitution, it's a key section in the fundamental objectives and the principles of state policy that states should actually aspire to provide free education to their students. And in order to make this functional, that's how the counterpart fund something came up. They started charging the consolidated revenue account to provide a fund. So that gives it the basis. Now, I just want to say it's like a good morning to Anambra State people and parents, who have kids in the school. When I read it, I was really delighted with the news. It's like dusting up the document on universal basic education from the shelf to effectively implement it. But just like he emphasized, it's not just making the pronouncement, it's also trying to make it to work. And so how does it really work? I know in the time of P2B, like you mentioned, they tried to implement universal basic education, free education. But then Peter, in his own wisdom, defined what he wanted to do. He defined that he's going to provide free textbooks, mathematics, science, and English, and maybe social studies. I think these are about 3 or 4 textbooks they say they're going to provide free, and then free tuition. He defined what he was going to do. And they were doing it. Because that time, when we were doing some programs, and as well people were around, Ezon and the chairman, they said the tables were available. But we told them that most of our partners across the state were saying that they don't have it. They said the book is in their shelf, in their store. And they were elected, and they went to the store to go and collect the textbooks. That's what that particular government wanted to do. They defined the extent they can go implementing free education. So one of the things I want to see in this administration again, is to define the extent they can go. If they say it's completely free, then they should provide the penalties to implement it, just like he's mentioning. It's not just about monitoring, because if you activate the system properly in terms of providing necessary infrastructure and equipping that infrastructure to do their work, then if you monitor, you'll be able to discover the gaps that exist and see how to close it. But if the necessary needs, the things that are required to do the work is not available, you cannot really do the work. The inspectorate department is talking about, I think what else we have, they have an assurance section, monitoring, is it quality and assurance section unit. So if they are properly equipped to do their work, they can always do it. In terms of materials and in terms of necessary funds to do it. You see, I'll begin to take government seriously in this regard when I see their budgetary programs on this. That's when I take them seriously. Now, if you look at the challenges is raised in terms of staffing, it's key. But then, I'm very happy to see the government taking a bold step in terms of staffing, having employed 5,000 teachers earlier, and then has made a commitment for another 3,000. It's a bold step. 3,000.
That's a total of 8,000.
It's a bold step. I also want to see the government take a bold step in terms of the equipment they require to do the work, provisioning for it and implementing, releasing the funds to do it. So that when the monitors go to see whether those equipments are there, they will see it.
Now, before you go ahead, the issue of people rejecting where they are posted, how should government handle it? Like all those people posted in the rural communities.
You see, there's a motive force in a human being to do something. If that motivation is not there, the person is not going to do. It's not just about money. If somebody walks into the office and doesn't see the things, the tools required to work to, it's not motivated. So that teacher that said he wants to do the work, but it demoralized, maybe because it doesn't have a good living accommodation there, maybe there's no water there. He requires to be going to the street to fetch water and all other things that make the environment attractive for him to do the work. It will not be there. So it's one of the key things a government has to do. To improve access, the environment must be conducive. That is one. Just like you talk about hospitals, that you must provide accommodation for doctors or nurses, medical workers. You should also provide accommodation for teachers. These are some of the things required in the environment there to make it to work. So if it is going to work, then government must have to provide some of these necessary things. Another thing I want to bring in at this point is, you see, universal basic education, free education for what objectives is the government really driving this program? Is it as it is now? Are they going to tweak it to give our kids the kind of skills that they require to perform, to function in this century? That's so if you look at the government educational programs and the program objectives, you see that they must have to tweak it to reflect the reality of the day in terms of numeracy, in terms of digital skills that our kids require to perform. So if they don't do it, and you are just implementing free education in the old style, we're not going to get the kind of skills that we require for our kids to really perform. So that's the kind of things I want to talk about.
So in other words, you're talking about rejigging the curriculum.
Exactly, rejigging the program objectives, because the curriculum and the distance is there. But they need to tweak it to bring out those special areas that we require now. The federal government has already brought out the curriculum in terms of what they want to be taught. But it's left for each government to now look at it and see whether whether it reflects the kind of ambition, the kind of direction, and the kind of results they want to have. If you take a place like Catalonia, it's in Spain. But Catalonia is not the same with the rest of the Spanish people. It is because the people in that province determine what they want to see, and they reject their education and got the kind of result they want. That's the kind of thing I want to see.
Thank you so much. Okay, Onyeka. Quickly, education for all is very, very important because we all know as a society, the legacy any parent can give to a child is proper education. You understand? Well, on my own part, I would say kudos to the Anambra State government for thinking it's necessary to implement free and basic education. But then my question goes this way. Nigeria as a country has not met United Nations quota when it has to do with budget to funding education. You know, and I asked the question, is the Anambra State government rich enough to shoulder that responsibility to do beyond what Nigeria has failed to do? And that's one. And secondly, the question is, how can we definitely cover the lapses that we are having? Free and to implement free education in Nigeria, is it just going to be for the state-owned school? Who talks about the private schools? Who goes there to monitor what is being done there if actually they are in conformity rather, with what the state government is? That question is to you, okay?
Yeah, I really brought out that question because if you look at the budgetary trend of our government in education, in the past 8 years or so, counting from 2021 down, the education budget of government as an organization, the education ministry and the agencies, they've not gone beyond that 8%. They're just between that 8 and 9%. They've been able to implement. If you take an average of, say, about 8 years, they've not done that. They've not gone beyond 39%. Then if you look at...
They've not done beyond 39% of what is allocated to them?
Yes. If you take an average of, say, 7-8 years,
yeah,
it has not gone beyond 39%. Now, if you look at the program and program objectives of government in education, it's just around 32-33%, between 32 and 33%. So that's a bit there. So the education program reflects, if you look at our budget summary, it reflects that item in the cost summary where they say improving education. Improving education. I think that's the name they give it. that encapsulates everything government is doing in education, both in the Ministry of Education, in the agencies, in all other departments of government, including the governor's office. It captures everything they do about education. So if you take an average of it over time, and that's what translates into your program objectives. So everything the government is doing is captured in that place. It's not more than 32%, between 32 and 33%. So it gives you an idea of how they prioritize education in the state. So if they cannot do up to 50, 60, 70%, it means that they cannot employ teachers. They cannot fund equipment. They cannot provide the kind of digital skills we are talking about in terms of ICT. I was looking at somebody's certificate.
Okay, wait.
Right.
For the government to meet the 60-70% you're talking about, are you saying that the shortfall is based on the fact that the educational system is not reaching out to the government in the areas where they need government input? I don't understand. Please clarify me on that.
What it says is this, that the governments have not really prioritized education the way they should do. Because when a department of government makes a budget, when it's time to release it, they normally apply. It is when the fund is approved and they get a warrant and collect the money that it reflects as actual. So in terms of budgeting and in terms of actual releases to do the work, government has not given good attention. And that is where I want this government to really give attention. It's not just about saying we're going to give free education. It's not just about saying we're going to release money. I release the money for what in education? And that's why I'm talking about tweaking the program, education program, to reflect the kind of skills that we require now to perform in the 21st century. So that is my emphasis. It's not just about free education. So is it free education for what? What are you going to teach? I saw somebody said what I was saying. He said data sciences. The private sector is already moving ahead of government. But then they need to have a standard. I'm happy the government said they're going to give a standard to what is going to be taught. So a standard for what? Is it what is being taught now that they're going to give the standard? Or are they going to rejig it? So if you look at education objectives, there's an area they talked about vocational and technical education in the 3 zones of Anambra State. Why don't they have another code where they provide for vocational and technical education inbuilt in the primary, secondary school education system? Because that technical education, vocational education they're talking about is more like what they're giving to people who have finished secondary school to go and learn how to do carpentry, learn coding and data science and all that. Why don't you give it to them while they're still young? So they need to get another code to put in that program objective so that this thing is built into it and then fund it. So that while kids are still small, it's ingrained in them as they're growing up. So they also need to tweak something about teaching, funding teacher development program. So if you look at teacher development programs, if you check their data, they may not have done it in the past 2 years. Even when they're doing the retraining, what are they training them about?
Okay, I think there is a program that is coming up, Teacher Summit, coming up, where they want to teach them how to, go digital, because we are in a digitized era, and they want to teach them on how to, make use of computers, and also maybe provide the computers for them at the end of the summit. So it's an ongoing program.
Let it not be a tokenism thing. That people just say, we are giving teachers, tell teachers, teaching teachers how to use a computer. It starts with the recruitment process. Even this 3,000 they say they are going to recruit, they should begin to think in terms of what is the number that we shall recruit to begin this kind of thing we're talking about. I just recruit people who have studied English and mathematics. What of applied technology and all those vocational things we're talking about? What percentage are they going to give to it? So that every school should have at least 1 or 2 or 3. So they should graduate these things. I'm not saying they'll be able to do it one day, but then they should begin to talk about collaboration. Because there are a lot of funds out there. I've said earlier that it has been said that there are international benchmarks that has to be met, and that no child for any reason should be denied education because of money. Any government that is very serious about it will get partnerships to implement some of these programs. So it's not just about recruiting teachers. It's about beginning to think in terms of what percentage of the teachers we are going to recruit will provide the technical skills and teach the children this vocation and technical education we're talking about in primary and secondary schools.
Okay. We're still continuing with our discussion in our studio this morning, but right now we want to take a short break. We want to refresh your memories on when the governor actually made the pronouncement of the implementation of free education for basic schools in Anambra State, and then we have our street tour because there are people out there we interviewed concerning what we're discussing today. So we are going to bring it to you right now. When we come back, we continue with the rest of the show. Stay with us.
But what we are launching today, beginning this term, and so far as I am on this chair, as governor of Anambra, now public school owned by government and run by government. What open now from nursery to primary 6 to JSS 3. Nobody, none of them will be required under any circumstance to pay 1 kobo to anybody. Nobody. Okay? Yeah. Well,
it's a good thing. Since the government has announced it, it's a good omen. And we, the Anambrarians, appreciated it. Only that the government, they have good programs, but we are waiting for them to perform well as they promise to the Anambrarians.
We are very enthusiastic, especially this issue of free tuition. The only thing is how to start, especially the new one. If you see the list of requirements for getting into school now, you will wonder what the amount is made for. Some are asking even up to tins of paint. Paint, you know what paint? And all sorts of things. I don't know why and how and who those things are. But generally, whatever happens, we are grateful to the government for making tuition free for now. It's just struggling to get in now, getting registered. Because some of these things are, some of the initial demands are what the teachers themselves want. When you go there, you see them telling those things, but everybody is making effort to get started. And we know that as we proceed, after the initial beginning, with the call it free education or free tuition, whatever it is, I mean, it will be better for us.
Yes, they are all happy. Because one of my neighbors said, daughter, this morning, when she was going to school, she said, Auntie, I am going to school. I said, wow, you are going to school? So she's so happy. So they are all happy. I can see them rejoicing, you know. Some of them waking up on time because they know they want to go to school.
In the rural areas, they don't. Because you know that the first week of the resumption is normally like that. But in urban areas, developed areas, they do. Because if you don't come, they replace you with another person. But in rural areas, we used to go and beg them. You have to plead, you have to do a lot of announcements before they will leave their farms to come to the school. But this time around, because of the support of the government, they are jubilating, they are coming. In fact, we saw more than what we have been seeing before this time.
But what what we are launching today, beginning this term, and so far as I am on this chair as governor of Anambra, now public school owned by government and run by government. Nwata ọbụla nọ from nursery to primary 6 to JSS 3. Nobody, none of them will be required under any circumstance to pay 1 kobo to anybody. Nobody. Okay? Yeah.
Want to know what's coming, guys? The free beach ball! I guess I'd better start again. Oh, here we go, everybody. Free beach ball! Yes, guys, there's a free beach ball in every carton of Capri Sun. Get a carton, get a ball. It's time to play some more. Play! Capri Sun. The taste of fun.
Glad to have you back on Good Morning Anambra today. And we all watched that clip and saw where the governor made that pronouncement that on no account should any child from primary to JS3 be asked to bring a kobo. Congratulations, we keep saying. We all know the importance of education, and then from those that had to say a thing or two during the street walk, they all told us the excitement that were on the faces of these children that will be going to school. Well, I'm excited too, being someone from Anambra State and knowing the value of education. But we are still talking about the implementation of the free education in Anambra school. Basic schools we're talking. Let me come to you, Chris Chikwelu. You understand? You heard the governor. Yeah. You saw what people on the street, what Anambarians were saying, how elated they were. Now, in public schools, do you see this total eradication of children being taxed to bring cutlasses, hose, and there may be little levies in order to augment?
That there was a school they were asked to bring
pens. You understand? Do you see this coming to an end, or would they just emphasize on just the education and not the beautification of the school environment? Because the teachers might tell you that what government is paying for is for education and not uplifting of the school environment.
Oh, okay, that is good. I heard the governor. I heard what the people, vibes from the streets. Yeah. Actually, free education, like my colleague said here, it has a lot of indices. One, because after anybody that sends his or her child to the school knows that it's not only that tuition fee that we are paying for, exercise books, other things, and school uniform and others. What the government needs to do, first of all, there needs to be a collaboration. I don't want to maybe cry over a spilled milk because I don't know how far the governor, went into having discussions with stakeholders in the educational sector before that pronouncement was made. Because actually, like we said about providing tools and textbooks, we have a Nigeria Educational Research Development Council that is in charge of curriculum and other things. Because when you talk about free education, there are some schools now, when you bring this thing they normally issue at the end of the term, you see where they will write tuition free. But some other things they will be putting down. At the end of the day, when you calculate it, it will be amounting to even over 30,000 naira, 40,000 naira. You begin to ask yourself, they say tuition is free, that these things are free. What is now free there again? So what I'm trying to say, the government need to first of all say, are they providing books? Do you understand me? Because, for instance, in secondary school now, due to the change of the educational system, before it used to be 6-3-3-4, but now it's 934. Now, within that 1 to 9, what are they providing for the students? What are the parents providing? Then what are the schools providing? Because there's some places where you go, the students will buy chalk. You know, some of them who are still using the old colonial blackboard the system to teach. Some of them will be asked to buy this erasable marker. You understand me? So it depends on what they're doing. Like you mentioned, paint. Fine, I don't want to go into that area because I know mostly students are fond of writing their names on the walls. There are some schools when you go, they will tell you that once you are caught writing your names on the wall, that you buy 1 gallon or 2 gallons of paint. So that one is a kind of punishment. But the other things like cutlasses, brooms, and other are the essential things students need to bring, because you need to clean your environment, you need to sweep the classrooms and other things. Those ones are basic. We don't have issues with that one. The places where there are problems is that books, curriculum, the teachers that they are employing, because we keep saying it. The problem we have that made public school and that keep public school where they are today, one of the problems is because we don't have teachers of particular subjects and courses in our public secondary school. So you can now say they are recruiting like 3,000 teachers. Amongst that 3,000 teachers, you may find out that science-based and ICT-inclined applicants amongst them, maybe just about 500. Do you understand me? And you will notice that you are not getting what you want to do. So all those things are what the government need to say, okay, if they are providing books, no problem. We now know that the education is very, very free. But if they are not providing books, most often, if you go to some primary schools and secondary school, they will tell you pay 10,000 naira for books. Most often, those books are not even given to them. When you ask them, they will tell you that the people that are supplying the books haven't even brought the books. Then some they will tell you, go and buy.
But Chris, you went to primary school.
Yes.
You went to secondary school.
Yes.
I'm not sure schools provided you books. Rather, your parents bought books for you from the open market.
Yeah, now, there are some schools when you go, they will tell you that there's a particular books recommended by approved, the government approved textbooks that are going to provide it for you to buy from the school. Most students will pay. At the end of the day, those books will not be given to them. I've seen where it happened. And when they wait, they will tell you that you will wait when they make the second supply. Before you know it, the term is over. And by the end of the day, that student is denied of that book, which the parent paid for. So that's why during our own time, we used to buy books from the market. New General Mathematics, day by day, and all those ones. But educational system then was different from what we see today. These days, that's why people keep on withdrawing their children from the public schools. But if the government can walk that talk and actually provide all these things, like I said, let the governor make it clear, so that any principal or any headmaster or headmistress that is telling students to bring this for this, they will now know what they're provided. Like we mentioned, I remember sometime the former governor distributed computers to some secondary school. Some of those computers have been balkanized. Some of them are no longer here today. Why are they no longer here today? Because my friend here in studio said that some of the teachers don't want to live in the environment. There are some schools when you go there, you will not see any single school. Most of all these day schools, the moment is 2:30. Go there in the next 5 or 10 minutes. You will not see any single person. The predators around that area will now go to the staff room. Yes, some of them are part of the things. Are they providing security for the school? Because every school is supposed to have what we call yard man. You understand me? That will be there, ensuring that that school, things in that school are moving. Because you keep on talking about dilapidation. What is causing that dilapidation? When someone is not living in a particular quarters meant for him or her, Before you know it, lizards and cockroaches will start taking the entire place. You know, and the house will start to collapse because there's no going in and going out inside that room. You know what I'm talking about? If there's any particular room in your place where nobody enters, maybe once in a month, if you open it, you see this fouling under there. So they will ensure that those teachers that are recruiting will also live in the environment. I'm not saying that every school has water, but at least some of them that have, they need to provide. After all, there are some of the educational driven parents or community leaders who are even offering their houses free of charge for teachers to come and live, to ensure that they are giving the children of their community that basic teaching they need. That's what I'm talking about, collaboration among the education stakeholders.
Okay, earlier, when you were analyzing, you made mention of partners who can help to make this pronouncement work. Now in Anambra State, I know that this is not just the tax, the burden might be so much when we talk about free, like very free education for all in a basic school in Anambra State. So what are we, when we are talking about partners, who should we be looking at? Or who are the partners the state government should be looking at to collaborate to see that this works in Anambra State?
Yeah, it's really heartwarming, again, to say that government has pronounced free education. But then, when I think about it again, I say, what is the level of preparation that they have made to do it? Because it matters. It requires to really define what the gap is. What is the gap from what you have now and where the government wants to get to? The government has something in mind which it has to properly define. It has to unbundle what they mean by free education so that people understand it. Otherwise, at the end of the day, there will be a lot of frustrations. The governor said there's going to be free education and he has not done it. So government needs to unbundle what it means by free education so that it will be implementable. If it means free textbooks, free tuition, and other things, he has to describe it properly so that all the stakeholders will know. That's where the collaboration I'm talking about now comes in. So that if you say stakeholders, there are many, starting from individuals, communities, federal government, international agencies, regional bodies. If you go to educational documents, you see there are a lot of groups that are interested in education because it is through education, like we have talked variously here, that we can really achieve development. So there are so many groups that are interested. If you look at the net, see where they say education for all. Our government can even tap that front if they properly describe the challenges we have here. But the problem most of the time is that the government sector would like to be saying that we have done very well. They want to put that kind of idea on the table where international agencies are so that they feel that they are doing very well and the president. But the fact remains that we have so many challenges down here in the education sector, just like in other sectors. So let me drop it. Let our people stop saying that we are all right when they get to such platforms. Let them say the problems we have so that they can get assistance. So coming back to the partners we're really talking about, you see, he has mentioned communities. There are some people in the communities that can really support the government if they see them to be serious in what they're doing. In terms of accountability, in terms of transparently using the fund to provide those things they want. And that is why those who really go through the government budget most of the time, if they see the amount of money they say they spent, and some people get to the scene, to the platform to see if it's actually there, you will see it. Then again, look at, when I thought of federal government, look at the senators, look at members of House of Representatives here, the state body here, that's the House of Assembly here. They have a lot of funds in their counterparts, in their constituency projects. If you go and check the kind of things they do with their constituency projects, you'll be asking yourself, does it actually reflect the kind of critical needs you have in our communities? And education is one, health is one. They would like to define what they want to do where they want to do it without any form of consultation. Before the last election, the people on the street were mocking one senator that he bought cake, he bought this, he bought that shuttle, and packed inside the one room. And it was drowned by the flood. And then they came out and started sharing it after the flood. They said they are going to take it. But the point I'm trying to make is that that constituency project they are doing should actually reflect the livelihoods of the people, and education is one. So the constituency project should be part of this free education fronting, which is critical to us. And it should actually target, in fact, that fund should actually target this area we're talking about, skill-based education. Because it runs into several millions of naira for each constituency. So if you go to the international platform, I've said there are a lot of funds. So apart from rejigging the curriculum to reflect what we want, government should actually come out to tell people what is going to fund. If it doesn't define it, there's going to be a lot of disappointment and frustration. That's the way I feel. Because my fellow here, fellow discussor here, I said that there are a lot of things to be done. People are saying, tell others to buy paint, buy this, buy that. The government must have to state the extent it wants to go. Otherwise, it's going to be a disappointment.
Thank you so much, Onyeka. Chris, let me come to you. Research Fellow for Innovation, Ethics and Development. Well, that's quite a nomenclature there. But then, quickly, what I want to ask is quality education. Very, very basic. I understand when we went to school, what we had were seasoned teachers. In fact, I can remember being a primary school student where I had a teacher that was not older than my mother. That was what it was then. But this day, government schools and then the private counterparts seem to be having a total demarcation on education. Is it the failure of the government or people now raising up, just like Onyeka said, investing in education where governments are having their own shortfalls? How can we bridge this thing together so that in totality we have quality education?
Yes, you made a very good point, my brother. First of all, whatever any human being is doing, look at that word, passion. One, on the part of government has not taken education serious. Because if the government has taken education serious, they have to put everything about education in the first line charge of our budgetary system. Then on the other part of the people, the community. Most often, you see all these people, employees, people that, they use it as a kind of waiting the line. Some people now will be telling you, let me just get this teaching job and be waiting for better employment. Government need to look inward to actually know that whoever that is being employed as a teacher today is actually passionate about teaching. My brother, I belong to Lions International.
Both private and government schools?
Yes, I belong to Lions International. One of our core objectives is about education. In fact, today is Monday.
Yeah.
By Thursday, we're going to distribute some of exercise books in some schools here in Oka. And all these things are to promote education. Sometime in my community, I'm a chairman of one of the governing board of a secondary school. How did I become that chairman? I went to that place. I inspected the place and everything. I told them that I want to institute an honor, a kind of prize in honor of my late father. That any student, the best student in JS2, SS2, in 1, 2, 3, 4 subjects, that I'm going to pay their WAEC fees. That is junior WAEC and senior WAEC. And the principal, they went into, I told them that we don't want to know the student involved. I don't want to know them, and we don't want to see them. But I'm sure, just let us see the best amongst these core subjects. And we started it kept going. And from there, one of the days, the school authority, the principals and some of the heads came to me. They now told me that what I did was very marvelous. That is there no way that they wanted to constitute a new board? I told them that I have no interest. And almost that, before I said Jack Robinson, people started calling me place that they heard that I was being told about this, and that was how we took over. And from there, we started working. That was why I said this thing in the studio, that as at today, Monday, I have put up a call across to the principal. The principal told me that they have not received any circular concerning this
disbursement of books.
This implementation of this free education. Because some of them are even confused as at today. Because the school has started. They don't know what to do because they don't know what the government will provide. So that's why it is still early. I think they have just had school now for just 1 week. Let the government this time and hasten up and make sure that the terms of reference are provided so that the school authority will not put up a fee that might repel or degenerate into either demonstration or one thing or the other. Because before you know it now, some of the teachers will start telling students that they have to bring this due, bring this levy, bring that. Before you know it, you start. I remember that time, sometime around 15 years ago. Oh no, around 13 years ago. There was this book called ABNI. I don't know whether any of you still remember. ABNI. There was one book where there were protests at Onisha concerning a particular book, ABNI. This and that. So all those things are things the government need to enforce. Then coming to the other way, you talked about teaching.
Yeah, quality.
Quality education. The government need to be doing what we call in-training for teachers. After all, why do we have educational zones? The reason why we have educational zones in our state is to enable in the monitoring, coordination, and implementation of some of all these educational policies. In fact, teaching is different from conventional civil service because they have like 1 month after the second term, 2 months after the promotion term, and about 3 weeks after the first term. So all these things are supposed to be a period where the government and those concerned will be carrying all the in-training, educational training for all the teachers, training them maybe batch by batch. They'll bring consultants, bring resource persons, take them what on what, maybe 2 days, 3 days, so that know what they're giving to the students. My brother here mentioned about new skills. There are some teachers that are being employed today that cannot even operate computer. I read 2 days ago where WAEC is talking about that they want to introduce CBT.
Yeah.
You understand me? Now, if you go to some communities, some of the students they have not seen computer. Not that they have not seen computer. They might have seen it, but they cannot even play keyboard. So the Ministry of Education, the ASUBEB, and other concerned educational sector need to ensure that teachers are being trained so that it cannot just be ordinary garbage in and garbage out. Some of the teachers are no longer current. All right. If you interview some of the school children, you ask them for certain things, you find out that some of those teachers are still in the stone ages.
All right. Actually, when we were talking earlier, there were pictures that was being displayed on television set showing, you see them after they're holding capacity building workshop for newly recruited teachers.
From this thing I'm seeing now, from this kind of sitting arrangement, this type of region cannot even impact anything on people. All right. You understand me?
At least they are doing something. With time, they are going to improve. Maybe I talked about the ANSJIT that is coming up, where they are going to, train teachers on how to use computers and all that. So with time, we are going to get it better.
Honestly, I tell you, this kind of arrangement I see there cannot actually
quickly, just before we go, as the state coordinator, Civil Society Action Coalition on Education for All, and what are your organization doing so that to see that this free education will get to all in Anambra State?
Yeah, I really start with our own office because SACEFA is a coalition of organizations that are interested in education. Our office, Civil Rights Concerns, CRC, our motto is, if you want development, you should respect human rights, fulfill it and protect it. You should respect, protect and fulfill human rights. In fact, some stakeholders have actually argued that development is freedom, and that freedom is development. Because it is the true freedom that you have a choice of what you want to be and what you want to do. And so let me stop it there. If you go to Sakefa, Sakefa is actually interested in ensuring, through monitoring, interfacing, engaging education stakeholders to provide quality education, to provide free education, and to ensure that every child is not left behind, and no child is left behind. Every child gets quality education. And so that takes us to the issue we are discussing here. What is quality education? Is it quality education that will serve the 18th century? Or is it quality education that will serve the early 19th century? We're talking about quality education that will serve our people currently and in the future. And so that is why it is good that before this announcement was made, there should have been a period of preparation, taking stock of what you have and what is not there. If you take some of the basic metrics for measuring education, in terms of teacher-student pupil ratio, teacher-pupil ratio, classroom-pupil ratio, and so on, you begin to see the gaps. So if you are trying to fill it, who is going to come in there? Is it vocational technical teacher, or is it a teacher that is going to teach mathematics and other general subjects like geography and all that? So that is how the preparation should have started. Then you begin to talk about availability of some of the other requisites that makes it interesting to really teach, like water, the toilet system, hygiene sanitation programs that are in the schools. These are some of the things that ought to be taken care of before even the pronouncement was made. But then I feel elated that the pronouncement has been made, but then they have to quicken the process of establishing this.
I was exactly coming to that. Maybe the pronouncement will be made and then every other thing will begin to fall in place.
That they have to work very hard now. Yeah. Just like he said, he called somebody, said they have not even had anything. So they have to mobilize all the resources, both material and financial and the knowledge, to fill the gap. Because schools are resuming.
Have resumed.
They have resumed. And so one of the things they must have to work out very fast is what is the meaning of this free education? How do they describe it? What does it mean in real terms? So that a teacher, a headmistress, or headmaster knows what is expected to do. Just like I said, it's going to be a lot of frustration if these things are not properly defined. Because there's no way parents or communities will not make any contribution. It's so difficult. If you go to some schools, children sit on the bare floor in Anambra State. We have documents on that, which have been engaging the education sector.
That was the reason why the governor made a call to see how we can incorporate our stakeholders and also communities to come and help in refurbishing some of this thing. Because as it is now, maybe government can't do it alone, so we need the help of some partners like the communities to come and see what we can do to have a safe place for learning for our students. Well, on that note, I want to say a very big thank you to both of you for joining us on the show this morning. Thank you so much, Chris Chikwelu Jr., Research Fellow, Center for Innovation, Ethics and Development. And also, you are the chairman of Lions Club International.
Yes, I'm the president of Lions Club.
Okay.
We partner on education because education is one of the policies of Lions Club International.
All right, thank you so much for being here. And also, Uke Onyeka, State Coordinator, Civil Society Action Coalition on Education for All, and also Executive Director, Civil Rights Concerns, CRC. Thank you so much for being here today.
We're really glad to talk about this. I wish I could talk about it and engage the government on that so that we shall see what we want to see.
All right, thank you so much for your contributions this morning. Well, on that note, I want to say a very big thank you to all of you, our viewers, for being here with us all through the journey. Here is where we are ending the journey this morning. Thank you so much. My name is Chidimba Oranwa. See you again tomorrow.
Anambra, we saying have a blessed day.